How you doing? John Tech here. Welcome back to the show. So, it's been a long Thursday, teaching class till pretty late at night, actively teaching labs. Thank you, those of you who are taking the electronics class with me. Hopefully, you're learning something new. So, in my spare time, I like to sit down and sometimes play a little video game every once in a while. And Mrs. Chontek actually bought me a PlayStation, of which I probably play like 2 hours a week at this point. It's not very often, but I do find some enjoyment in playing some games, especially with my neighbors and my friends and my family. So, one of the things though is my controller is doing this weird thing where, like, if I take the analog stick and just like hit it once, it all of a sudden thinks after it returns to the central position, it kind of thinks it's stuck in that position. And my character starts doing a loop de loo, so to speak, in the game. So to counter that, actually here, I'm gonna try to increase my microphone level a little bit. Is that better? Is that better? Can you hear me now? Okay. So hopefully that's a little bit louder on the microphone. I'm not quite sure. Anyway, doing that in recording software. So my controller is having a problem, and some bird on the internet said that the problem lies in the analog stick that's inside, that there's some possible contamination. Now, for me, it's actually my right analog stick on my PlayStation 4 controller that's causing the issue. So I thought at the end of the day, what better way to kind of relax, sit back and relax, than to open up my one and only PlayStation 4 controller and inspect to see if anything is wrong with it. So looking at the back of it right now, it appears that I've got some screwdrivers, some Phillips head screwdrivers. I have no manual or anything like that. I'm going purely on a very tired instinct. It's a little bit after midnight right now, uh, and I'm sure something's telling me I should be ready for bed at this point. But then something's kind of driving me to say, what's wrong with this thing? I don't know. I don't know. So I'm looking at this guy. How well do you think that fits? That fits pretty well, don't you think? It's a nice bit. That's my 2-watt screwdriver bit. So let's see how well it works here. It looks like there's just 4. So I'm going to start with the one in the upper left. Now remember, it's my left analog, or my right analog stick, which is the one that's bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over. It's actually on the left-hand side. Now I imagine, because I don't know what I'm doing exactly, that this is pretty much just going to fall apart on me. This does not feel entirely like it's the right bit. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use my iFixit tray back here as kind of a little tray and try out a different bit just to see what it feels like. I'm going to try a 3-aught Phillips head bit. It feels like it's nice. I think that feels better. It's tough to tell, there's something. This controller, in so many ways, feels so much lighter than some of the previous PlayStation controllers I've owned in my life. And let me tell you, my first ever video game system that my grandparents and parents, my grandparents gave it to us for Christmas, and it was a deal with me and my parents. Originally, my dad was not exactly like my dad was a lot more about you should learn to use a computer, and we had a lot of computer games growing up, which was great. I still fondly remember all the computer games that we have, and I'm very thankful for the way that was. But I really wanted to play Crash Bandicoot, and Mario's, and Sonic's, and all the rest of the fun games when growing up with it on there. And we finally got a PlayStation 1 as my first ever video game system. I was so excited. I played that video game system. Me and my brothers played that video game system to death. To death. I have all 4 screws out. They're in my little tray here. It's really cool, by the way, that iFixit gives you a little tray with that. So now, without further ado, we see if we can't separate these things out a little bit. And again, I imagine, since I really don't know what I'm doing, that this is all going to kind of fall apart on me here. I don't know where exactly to pull. I'm kind of looking at it. It makes me wonder if I've got to Oh, something feels a little bit loose in the back. So I'm going to kind of work at that. What I'm going to use is a plastic pry bar. Maybe one of the little wedges. I think these things are called spudgers. No, don't quote me on that. Actually, no. Actually, you can't quote me. I'm pretty sure that they are called spudgers. And they kind of like, they get in. Oh, I can't see what I'm doing. They get like kind of inside the controller here. And there's metal ones and plastic ones. By the way, this is one of those like, this is just driving me nuts. I was playing a game and this just like wouldn't stop happening. And I'm trying to, it was one of the Final Fantasy games. And I was trying to beat this one boss. And I kept on losing his view because I couldn't see him. Because my controller was rotating me out of my way. So I have the front kind of feeling like it's coming off. It's kind of tough to tell. All right. So now I'm going to kind of approach this more from the side here. Oh, I felt something kind of pop. You know, this just makes me think this is going to be an absolute pain in the ass to put back together again. Oh, did I say that? That video. That's kids, don't say that word. If you're listening to Chantech, don't say that word. All right? Adults, if you're listening to Chantech, well, you don't have any control over what you're saying. That's really what it is. Is there another screw somewhere? It almost feels like there is. Sounds like someone just shot off a bunch of fireworks behind me. It almost really does kind of feel like there is another screw somewhere on this thing. I'm going to try to do the other side here. Okay, I felt another pop. So that was kind of a nice opening-like feel. It does. It feels like there's another screw somewhere on this thing. Is it the USB? Is it the micro USB that's on it? I mean, I'm looking at this and I don't really see another way that this can power. Just snapped it back into place is what I just did. I could feel that. So this kind of works. Is it there? That kind of went along that way. And now I'm just going to kind of brute force the damn thing open, and there you go. All right. Crack. Hopefully you caught all that on camera. Okay. So, what have we here? I have turned the thing on, and I'm pretty sure I broke something somewhere. I don't know where exactly. But one of the first things we're going to do is disconnect my power supply. Actually, we're going to move the 4 sets of screws over onto my keyboard. And I'm going to disconnect the battery pack from my system here. I'm going to, because it will not help me to have this thing into place. I'm looking for a release of some sort. It doesn't look like I have one here. So what I'm going to do is, using a pair of metal tweezers, I'm going to just pry the thing up. There is some adhesive in the central part of the controller right here. It feels like that's kind of where the battery was sticking. But I don't feel where it is on here. Battery is polarized. I can only put it back in one orientation. Some of me is recording this right now, so that in case I mess something up, I can kind of go back into it later on and just, you know, see what I did at that point. Now, my buttons. There is one of my buttons. There is 2 of my buttons. My R2 button. My R2 button has come out. Looks like I've got a ribbon connector right there. That is soldered onto a terminal. I can see the solder job to it there. So what I'm going to do is just kind of slide this out. Oh, maybe not. Maybe I'm just going to pull the whole thing out. Is that what I have to do? I see a screw that holds I see a screw here in the, and I'm sorry, this is kind of like as far out as like I can really kind of zoom. There is a screw kind of here in the center of the whole thing. So now what I'm going to do is pull the little ribbon piece out. Okay, so the ribbon is out. I'm going to take the back of the controller, which I'm just kind of looking at it right now. Is that an LED that's way in the back? Yeah, I think that is. I think this whole thing lights up. This whole like little plexiglass piece on the back. There is a single, probably a tricolor LED that works in the back. That's actually really cool. So it kind of lights up along the edge. That's some cool optics, Sonic, or Sony. Gosh, it's late. Should probably go to sleep at that point. Nah. Fix controller. Wise idea. I popped a R2 button off my controller. I'm pretty sure it's going to go back on here. Yeah, there's a little like snapping thing this guy's going to snap back into place with. So I'm going to put R2 off to the side. And this is kind of neat. So like just looking at the back of the controller right now, one of the things that you see is you see the large rumble pack magnets on a motor. The motor is driven right over here. I'm actually kind of surprised that that battery pack is as small as it is. It just must mean that these things are really, really efficient. Oh, that's kind of weird. My rumble pack on the other side is actually significantly smaller. There's only one little rumble, whereas on the other side there is 4 things that are there. Is that like that for everyone else? Does everyone else have on the right hand side of their controller a lighter field than the left hand side? Is it built like that on purpose? Is that a thing? It's probably a thing if I had to try to guess. All right, so let's take this next screw out, the one that's right in the center of the motherboard. It is a Phillips head screw. I'm using a 3/0 screwdriver to loosen this, and I'm going to take this out. I felt a lot of things loosen up just now. Yeah, the bottom, or what is essentially the top of the controller, is now, feels for the most part separated from the other part of the controller. So I'm going to slowly but surely, carefully and easily, with skill and possibly lots and lots of luck, remove my PlayStation 1 controller from its house. Something is stuck. I can't feel exactly what it is. I really can't actually feel exactly what it is. People who do this for a living, please comment. Or if you've actually done this before, please comment at how terrible a job I am doing at this right now. Without any, again, oh, I see what's catching. It's the big black button. That's like the large touchpad is what's catching. I see. So there is a ribbon. There is another ribbon connection here. And I'm going to see the ribbon connection. I'm going to try. That feels like if I take that apart, like I'm going to actually have a really hard time putting that back in. I'm going to see if I can't take this. Oh, look at that. So we'll come back to the cool stuff here in just a second, but just to show what the inside the controller looks like. There's the silicone pad with the taps on it and the main placed PS button. That's kind of what that is. All right, so I'm going to put you off to the side. And I'll also put the little tray with the sticky piece off to the side. God, I hope I can put all this back together again. May not be tonight. May not be tonight. All right, so now I have this very, very large piece. It feels like I should be able to take this ribbon out. Like there is a large blue tab on it. This ribbon right here. So I'm just going to take a guess. If I'm wrong, well, I'm wrong. All right. There we go. So the blue side is going to go face up. I think from there, I can actually kind of flip this thing over. And there you have it, folks. The motherboard for the PlayStation controller, at least a large portion of it. There's the flexible sensors that are on the top side part of it, but here is the main motherboard where all the fun kind of happens to it. Now let's see here. What kind of things are on this PlayStation controller? I just realized I have no ESD on me right now. I'm outside of the ESD mat that I'm on. So if you're doing this at home, probably get some sort of ESD protection of some sort, because these guys right there, that's a there's a circuit chip. It's another circuit chip, and you know what? Better late than never in this case here. Better late than never. I think it's a great way of phrasing this. I'm going to put on my ESD wrist strap. Wait just a little bit of some time for any kind of static that has built up on me to unbuilt up. Now, to be fair, I have had this PlayStation for maybe a month. Yeah, just like 2 months, maybe 2 months tops is how long I've had this. This controller has not had a lot of use, and I pretty much, I think, bought the controller so that it started doing this. Like it's been, that's not the right thing to phrase. Oh no, my camera decided to poop out. Oh, why did it do that? I noticed that this camera likes to do that every once in a while. Let me set this up again. Hi, welcome back. How are you? Did you catch everything that was happening there? No? Yes? No? No. Well, anyway, yeah, so this is not something that's come from wear and tear. I am not a crazy gaming person anymore. But the controller that is having a problem is this guy that's right here. And the one video that I watched, I did like kind of look up like, is there something I can do in software that can kind of reset or something along those lines here? Is there something I can do to, just do something in software? And everyone was kind of saying that no, this is a solely hardware thing. So it looks like on the analog stick, because I've taken the piece off, I'll put that off to my little tray, that this is the culprit right here. See that? This wheel, that's the one that moves when I move left or right. And it is definitely my this way. When I make this move like this, it stays stuck in that position even though it's returned until I jiggle it around a little bit. All right, so my understanding, what I need to do, sort of pop this guy open. I'm going to use a flat pair of 2 AB tweezers. Kind of wedge this thing gently open, all right? You all watching me on here? I'm watching me on camera too. How do I look so far? All right. And this thing, I believe, just kind of pops off. At least it did when the edited video of whoever it was that made the thing that did the thing. Okay. Well, there you go. I've popped the thing off. Now, there is a disc in here, and I believe the disc is this thing right here. So I'm going to take this guy out and take a look at him. And, in the video, the guy's disc looked rainbow in color. My disc looks like it's either made out of steel or nickel plated. One of the two. It looks fine in comparison. But he was saying that the contamination that's kind of on the inside of this right there is, in addition to this disc possibly being bad, that the contamination on the inside is what actually causes this to be bad. And I read somewhere that like you can like blow with air, like compressed air in the inside of that. I tried that, and that didn't work. I tried that a few times, that didn't work. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to take some electronic grade isopropyl alcohol, and what I'm going to do is find a Q-tip, a Q-tip that I used these earlier. I had some lint on the inside of my cell phone charger that I took out, and I'm going to use a couple of Q-tips and some electronic grade isopropyl alcohol. What I'm going to do is clean this out. I do see that there is some sort of a contamination on the inside. Like it looked like there was something there. Looking at my Q-tip, I see almost nothing. Like that looked like I almost picked up absolutely nothing. I'm going to take a dry one now. And I am focusing strongest around the connection ring, which, you know, looking at the connection ring, it's tough to tell if it's like, is that the plastic that's holding it in, like the plastic around this case, or is that the actual ring itself that's made of some sort of a metal of some kind? Now, I did, on a dry run across this, I am seeing some sort of black residue. See that there? I'm seeing something black with it. So maybe there is something there. Let's give it another little pass, won't we? Let's see. So here we go. All right. Now, one thing that's actually I should make a mention of is I really don't have a way of testing this thing live. Like I have my PlayStation is hooked up to quite literally a 13-inch monitor. I don't play it that often, but sometimes if I'm feeling like I'm in the mood for some hockey or some of that Final Fantasy game, just something to take my mind off of stuff, sometimes I load it up. I am not seemingly picking up any additional residue, so I'm going to assume that this is done at this point here. All right, and let's start to get this guy ready to get put back together again. Now, I believe this little fella, which has a lot of metal pieces that are all kind of sprung and attached together. Is this thing still on the microscope? It sure is. Is this going to work when I put it back together? Oh, who knows? That's the fun of doing these kind of things. It's already not working in the first place, so what additional damage could I possibly do to it? I'm going to use a more fine, my favorite 00SA Technics pair of tweezers. I love these tweezers. They are, in every way, shape, and form, some of the best tweezers that I've ever owned for doing all kinds of projects. So I'm pushing this back in, and now I'm going to push this back together again until it snaps together. It should, like, looking at what the guy did in the video, it should all snap together, kind of like that. I'm going to give it a visual test to see if it turns, and sure looks like it does. The other one is turning on the other side. Just another general look at things, like what are the most recent electronic products actually kind of made of? It looks like this almost looks relatively primitive, if I had to really say. I mean, there's two chips, and if I really had to guess what these two chips are doing, maybe three chips right there. One of these chips is enabling a Bluetooth something, I'm guessing. Another one is just a microcontroller that processes information. And if I really had to guess what that last one is right there, well, that's the voltage source. Oh yeah, there's the regulator regulator. I'm guessing that's going to be a regulator right there, just because it's quite literally on the other side of the power supply. All right. There's some other chip with that. I'm just looking around. just looking at the size of components. I mean, those capacitors, and those are capacitors, like anything with like a black chip component like that on there, those are probably resistors. And anything with like a brown or a beige looking component, or that maybe that white one that's right there, those are capacitors. And they're exactly on the opposite side of this array, which is where like kind of one of the chips is going to be. But just to get a feel for the size, I think what I've got over here is some 0201 resistors. Now I'm going to pull one out of the tape. I mean, I'm going to pull another one out. I mean, I'm going to pull like 20 of them out and just kind of pick one to see, like, in a modern day PlayStation, how? Yeah, those are 0201 components on the inside of that. At the tip of my tweezers is another 0201 component. That's definitely 0201 size. I mean, if you think about it, all electronic products that are common in like a household, they all kind of share the same level of like 4 things together, like in terms of what the next upgrade is going to be, like what most people want for the next upgrade. And that is, most people want more functionality inside their electronic product, whatever it is. They want it to last longer. They want it to last a long time on a battery charge. And they want it to be cost effective and cheap. I mean, there you go. Think of any cell phone, laptop, anything like that, and that's pretty much what it is that you want. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try and put this ribbon back into here. All right, so here up comes the ribbon. Up comes the ribbon, and the blue side was facing out. Kind of shove that thing back in. I'm going to try to keep everything on camera as much as possible so that you can see every silly little goof that I do. It would be the best way to kind of phrase this here. Okay. That's looking good so far. What do I have to do next? Oh, sorry. Were you complaining that you weren't being used? I turned on the multimeter just in case. I wasn't sure. And I might still want to use it actually to test the battery. I wonder if I'm going to read like kind of what voltage and currents and stuff are actually on that battery. All right, so now I assume the next thing I need to do is actually slide the large black touchpad button. I'm just going to call it the touchpad because that's pretty much what it is. I'm going to push this guy through the controller like that. And again, if you know someone that actually does this, you know, that has done this before, this is, I mean, quite literally my first time. Normally speaking, you know, if my controller is broken, I just sort of buy a new controller. Oh, my ribbon came disattached. My ribbon came disattached because I tried to pull the black piece of the bottom of the, or I guess the top of the controller. That would be the top of the controller. I tried to pull that up so that it went over one of the little screw hole pieces on there, and that didn't work. Okay, so now I'm going to put the touchpad ribbon cable back in. Okay. Now you stay there, Mr. Ribbon. I'm counting on you. We're all counting on you. Next thing that happens is I'm going to, this appears to be a little bit of a tricky, you know, it has to go in just the right way kind of thing. Okay, so I've got the touchpad going under. This part was actually kind of tricky to take out as well. It would almost make more sense to me to put the touchpad in after I take this out. That would actually kind of make a little bit more sense, but, you know, kind of stubborn right now in terms of what I'm doing. So I'm just going to kind of barrel through and see what happens. You know? Okay, the touchpad is through, but my controller is not. Nope, and the ribbon cable came out again. So that's okay. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to move the ribbon cable out entirely while I set. We're going to do kind of what I think feels right, which is to take this off. Not easy to do. Right? It's not easy to just have all of the pieces kind of put in together. Okay, so the touchpad is now flat, but the ribbon has to feed up through this little slot that's up here. Okay, so the ribbon has to feed up into that slot. So I'm going to push the ribbon up into that slot. Oh, it came loose out of the controller. You know, here. I'm just going to move the ribbon entirely out of the way while I set. Now the push button keeps trying to come out. You stay there, push button. Okay. Oh, well, look at that. And it all fits together nice and simple. It's probably a ruse, but that's okay. A rouge. Did I have the right way? A ruse, a rouge. It's probably, I'm probably being tricked by the machine in some way, shape, or form. But we'll see. Okay, that did actually go back in, and that feels right. So then next, there's this little black piece up here, which has the sticky spot on it. This piece here, the sticky spot for sure, goes on top. But which way does this go? Oh, like that. It fits. Wow, how does it fit like that? I mean, that fits so nice and neat there. Well, either way, it fits, which is important. So now I'm going to take the Phillips head screw, take my screwdriver after I put the screw in the socket. That just kind of sank all the way down. Yeah, it's kind of what I thought. There's probably going to have to be some level of alignment to this, because right now it just kind of feels like I'm blindly turning this screw. Is there something I need to align this all up to? Yes, I do see that. Let me see if I can see it better from up here. Yeah, there is a hole. Okay, I think I got it in alignment right now. So I'm going to kind of use my 00 SA tweezers to drop that in. It still did not feel, this doesn't feel like I'm catching on anything. Yet at the same time, I mean that, oh, I do see that. I'll try to brighten this up a little bit here so that I'm trying to look down into the hole. The black piece that's up on top has to go through down to the motherboard and then down to one last black piece below. But I mean, like right now, this feels like this should be sitting in place. Like, oh, do I have to somehow push this all in? Oh, maybe that's it. Maybe I just gotta actually push the whole thing in together. That may make more sense because it's sitting up a little bit. Oh, that still did not. It doesn't feel like I'm catching anything there. And this still kind of feels a little bit lopsided. So I'm going to take this black piece off for a second while I try to do my best to... Okay, that feels really well in place. And I can like see the hole, and now the screw is sticking out. So I had to really kind of put my focus into it to put this thing down. Let's mount this thing into place. I definitely feel the threads tightening. I'm going to tighten it down until it's about finger tight, and that actually felt pretty good. Everything else looks like it's more or less aligned. I have to put my R2-D2 button back on, which that just kind of snapped into place. Oh, I'm sorry, my light is still up very, very bright. I'm sorry about that. That feels like that's on. That feels like that's on. Just out of curiosity, before I reattach the battery, can I get a voltage rating of the battery? I see 1,000 milliamp hours, 4.2 volts. Wow. With a maximum charge current of, it doesn't say 10 amps, does it? 1 point. That's gotta be a point. Wow, that is a fine decimal point there. Yeah, 4.25 volts maximum charge voltage, which is interesting. So just out of sole curiosity, because down in the lower left I've had the multimeter on. Should be, it may not have been set to anything, but I'm going to try to get a voltage rating. Those holes are so small. Oh my gosh. Luckily, I have good multimeter probe tips. 4 volts is what I can say. I'm trying to show where the multimeter tips are. I barely see where they are. Yeah, 4 volts inside of it though. It's a nice, healthy tip. Healthy battery. Healthy tips. My multimeter probe tips are extremely sharp, which are honestly some of the best multimeter tips I have personally ever owned. Now, 2 things I just noticed. 1, I gotta plug the battery back in, but 2, there is this other part of the controller that has another ribbon on it that I originally took out first. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach the ribbon first. Which I remember when I flipped it over like this, that was the blue side. Okay. This might be really, really tricky to do on camera. I'm going to try to do as best a job as I can to show what this is. Oh, there's the Sony PlayStation logo. Hi there. Okay. So now in goes the ribbon. I don't think you're probably not seeing this right now, but you'll just have to take my word that I did it. There you go. I guess I could have done it this way here. But now we're going to reconnect my controller here, the battery to the controller. There it is. feels like a plug that has one and one type of polarity to it. Stick this back onto the tacky side of the mat. Close. Lock the system. And now the awkward feeling part of trying to put this all back to, oh, did that just snap in? It just all snapped back in. Yeah, that just kind of all snapped back in. Just a quick feeling of the buttons. Everything kind of, oh, I hit the PlayStation button, so now the thing is lighting up thinking that it's on. I guess that's kind of a good thing. Now, is there any way? I wonder if there's a way that I can test this. My PlayStation 4 has turned on, so something is happening with it. I put the first screw in, trying to get as much on camera as possible. At some point I may opt to get more of a overhead camera so that you can all kind of see a little bit more about what I'm doing. But I think I need to convince myself to be a little bit more serious about what I'm doing at home. I mean, I'm just basically doing this for education and fun is what it is, to help people that are in this situation that, I mean, and honestly, I think there's a lot of videos of people who take their controllers apart and they're experts at this. Makes me wonder how many amateurs that there are that are doing this. Not that I'm like an amateur, I just haven't done this before. So I just, when you don't know something, you don't know something. So solely on intuition and one small video. Now, the fun part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the input on the 113-inch monitor that I usually record on. We're going to see if the video changes. If the video doesn't change, if the video is still recording, I won't know this. I actually really won't know this at all, I think. If the video starts to change, you'll know in the picture that I take with a happy face or sad face if my fix actually worked when I put this online later on. So if I don't see you in just a second here, if this somehow goes away and the recording just stops all of a sudden, I'll see you on the next video. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try switch this around so that I can see if I actually really repaired a piece of high-tech electronic equipment or a $50 controller. Am I still there? I have no idea. Nothing blinked on here. So I'm actually going to assume right now that I am still here. And I'm just going to speak what I see. So I'm going to select my profile. I'm going to select my game. And I'm going to try this out. Is that working? Holy cow. I think it's working. But wait a minute. Wait a minute. Now my other controller is stuck. Wait. Stop. Now the other analog stick is stuck. That's not fair. Oh my god, it is stuck. No, don't power it off. Oh my gosh, it's stuck. Okay, go to settings. Here, I'll tell you what. Here. Stop. Here. I'm gonna reset it. I know what the controller's thinking right now. It's saying, "How dare you try to fix me? Should have just gotten a new one." It's definitely no. It's stuck. Oh my gosh, it's actually stuck. It's very stuck. Darn it. I have a whole new problem. But you know what? I kind of have an idea of how to fix it. Here's what I'm going to do first. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect this controller. The next thing I'm going to try is holding down and resetting the controller. I'm holding down the reset button. Again, I have no idea if this works. None. Okay. This just turned back on. It's busted. Now my other analog stick is sticking. Well, I guess I'm going to have to make another video of taking this darn thing apart and trying to fix this again. So that didn't work, but at least I have an idea of like how to like take this thing apart and everything like that. So I'm going to switch back to, that's so funny. It's like, I mean, like really, I don't have, it's really stuck. It is very stuck.